Welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. It's me, Tom Dutta, and I'm excited. I tell you, we've got a blockbuster taping today. We are live stream. What that means is it's really the next generation of taping for interviews. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. If you're on the YouTube feed, give that subscribe button, smash it so that you can get the release of this. And also you can chat on most of the platforms. You can chat with us in the studio. Today I've got a remarkable guest on, and want to just start off by telling you a couple of quick things about how this guest and I met, and then I'll bring her into the studio from the green room. Sandy Gerber and I met actually through our professions, and she has done a TED Talk, a remarkable talk. And you all know, as you follow me, that I've done a TED Talk on the same stage, but just different years. And so I was very interested and followed Sandy. And there's a book she's written, which I'm going to talk about, and then she's going to talk about. And so we just connected on these common threads. And what happened was, as you all know, everybody, I poke my guests. I do it on purpose. I poke them because they say that when you're poked, when you feel pain, that means we're poking in the right place. So I'm going to just read Sandy's bio up front here. Sandy is a multiple award-winning author, communications and marketing strategist, TEDx speaker, a CEO of Next Marketing Agency. She set a new standard for innovative communications, growing the company from her bedroom into one of the top 100 fastest growing companies in BC. Wow. Named 2022 bronze medalist of independent publishers, and goes on and on with some more accolations. YWCA's Woman of the Distinction finalist. She enlightens thousands as she speaks. Lives in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, not far from me, with her partner, Kris, her two children, their dog, Router. And so I read that, and as you all know, I love all people. I love Sandy, and I went, okay, great. Now I'm going to call out the bullshit. What's the true, real story behind this greatness? And so I sent Sandy an email. I said, now that you know the narrative of the hero's journey, tell me what's going on behind that story. And this is what she wrote me. I'm happy to share why my magnets are experience and achievement, forming from fear of not being liked, loved, accepted, directly related to being bullied in primary school, shipped off to boarding school and high school to live away from my family, including my twin sister, with strangers for 2 years. This is why acceptance has been an undercurrent of my life. And she even cried at the end of her TED Talk, and she told me why she did. And I went, no, that's not why you cried. There's more to that. All right, let's bring her out. She's been patiently waiting into the studio. Welcome to the show, Sandy Gerber.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Tom. Happy to be here. That's a great intro.
Thank you. It is a remarkable story you tell. So I want to start off with something actually that is just fun to honor you. So we're going to put, you have a little book there you wrote. Do you have it with you?
Yeah, I have it here.
All right.
Carry it everywhere.
We're going to full screen you and just hold it up to the screen.
There's the book.
Okay. Now read out the title to us.
So it's called Emotional Magnetism, and it's how to ignite connection in your relationships. So how to communicate to ignite connection.
All right. So you see that there, everybody. So I want to reveal right now on the show. And I have read that book. I read it from cover to cover. And I wrote a review for you, Sandy, and we're going to reveal it on the show. So I'm going to just put something special up on the screen, everyone. And by the way, everyone, you know my show is not about book pitches, but we will tell you how to get it. But it's really about the connection of the book to this story we're telling. So here it is. All right. Congratulations. I know I can't. Let's see if I can try. It's hiding us, but I'll just read it out loud. I'll read it out loud, everyone. This was posted on Amazon February 22nd, 22. The review, I titled it, Written for This Era, Revealing, Inspiring, Navigating the Jagged Edges of Relationships. This book is timely. Within these pages are stories, skills, essential in pandemic world of self-isolation and relationship strife. Author Gerber becomes an authority at each page turn, teaching a framework for magnetizing interpersonal relationships. I like the organized content, quizzes, learnable skills through the book, including the URL for bonus value. I recommend this book for everyone seeking personal and professional growth. And Sandy, I'll bring you on in a moment, but you see in the bottom right corner, everybody, this is the first time I'm revealing live that this book has received the Quiet Warrior Literary Prize. And so the logo has been put on that. I read a lot of books and only select, I'm building a list over a legacy period of my lifetime of 100 books. So this is,
Wow.
congratulations. And,
Wow.
and we're going to do one more thing here.
Thanks
which
so
is,
much, Tom.
there it is, the
Wow. That's
fireworks first.
amazing.
All right. So we're going to take that off the screen and come back to Sandy here.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tom. That means a lot. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So pretty exciting. So let's get into the story. So
Yeah, for sure.
take us back. I mean, I want to talk about those formative
Mhm.
times. Tell us more about that.
Well, like I said at the beginning, right? When you asked me, why do I want to be on the show? It's really about sharing what I know and what I've learned so that people can benefit from it, right? So how did this all start? I mean, everyone always asks me that because this book, for example, took 10 years to write. Like this wasn't something that I was doing to make money. This was something that was a passion of mine to help people. So how did it all start? I mean, really it starts when we're young, right? Like I said in the intro there, I was, I think the most momentous moment was really when I was in elementary school, right? And so, and that's when, I have a twin sister. We're really, really close. We went to school one day and I think I was like 8 years old, right? Like it was so young. I was so young. And we don't think that 8-year-olds have problems, right? But when you're 8, you do have problems.
Oh yeah,
So,
I'll interject because we storytelling. Sorry,
yeah.
I'll just say that they have problems. They just can't express them, right?
That's
They
right.
don't know.
Yeah, we don't know, and we tend to, as adults and even as parents and older people, we tend to just dismiss them like they're trite, and they're not. They're formative, right? So, anyways, I went to school that day, and one of my best friends at the time, she was my life, right? As everything is, and when you're 8 years old. And I came to school, and she decided that day she wouldn't be my friend, and she'd tell everybody else I'd done something wrong. And I came into school, and I still get shivers thinking about it.
Yeah.
There was a whole circle of people all around the playground, and they were calling me terrible names and repeating it. And I felt like that was just so shocking. I still feel that, right, when I talk about it.
Was this in Vancouver?
No, it was in Toronto. It was in Toronto.
Yeah, well, those guys. So
Yeah.
tell us, so I'm gonna put you on the spot. What was one of those names? What was the name they called you?
They were calling me a slut, and I remember thinking,
Oh my
what the
God.
heck do you get? How do you get to be a slut at 8? First of all, what does that mean? And second of all, what did I do? Right. And so at that moment, I'll never forget. My sister grabbed my hand, and she's usually the one that's in the shadows, and I was usually the one out front. And she grabbed my hand and she said, "Just keep walking." And we walked together into the school, and it was a horrific day. And then, there's just so much teasing and bullying, and that continued on. And I don't know how it all came about. I really don't. It just was one of those things.
Yeah.
And after that, you want to go home and you want to tell your parents, but you don't. Right?
Yeah.
You keep that stuff inside.
Absolutely.
And you vow that you will never be in a position again. I vowed I would never be surprised again. I would never trust to that degree again.
Yeah.
And that obliterated relationships for me, right? Like female friend relationships.
Yeah. So I want to jump in. So I'm going to get you to catch your breath there. And by the way, everybody, we're going to mark this show as a global heat wave is occurring. So Sandy and I are both brave and courageous. I think I told you I have 95 degrees in my studio. And but as you were talking to me, first of all, I want to say I honor you for sharing that because it's a painful moment. And each time we share it, I know that our brains relive it. But everybody, that's why I think highly of Sandy, because of the courage to talk about that. Because here's the thing, that people come on to media or they do their work and they put their egos in front, and you never hear that. So I'm going to trade a story with you. You probably don't know this about me unless you've read some things I've written. But I came from the UK. I was born on a military base. My dad was a commanding officer in the military, became pretty violent alcoholic. And I grew up in those years, I was the only brown guy kid. And I was called Hindu and raghead. And I actually was a chubby kid. I mean, I got to tell you, now I look back and I go, yeah, well, I had fun because I ate Slurpees and O. Henry bars when all those other guys, they didn't. But I was heavy set, so I was called Fatso. But here's the thing, and I'll turn the spotlight back to you. 3 of my 4 family members would call me and treat me the same way. And so I've been doing a lot of research on brain science, which you and I talked about offline, that the amygdala, there's parts of the brain when you're maltreated as a child, everything up till about age 15 to 20, everyone gets put into the brain as believe it's truth. The brain, they can't rationalize. So just think about Sandy's story. She's called slut, pardon me.
Hmm.
She's 8 years old, and her brain basically believes it. That's what's going on. And her wonderful twin sister grabs her hand and pulls her away. And she doesn't want to tell her parents because she can't, because her brain believes. And by the way, into adulthood now, I'm not projecting on you, but
Yeah.
I still look in the mirror and see a fat guy, not good looking guy. I bet you still have those voices saying that you're this and that. And
Oh
so for a
yeah.
lifetime, we have to overpower that. So let's get back into your story.
Yeah, well,
Well,
and like if you think about that, Tom, like just like you're saying, you retain that, right? Because it happened to you. So that becomes now your new identity, right? For you
yeah,
don't know any different. And then you bring that into every relationship that happens from that point, right? So for me, I wanted never to be surprised again. I wanted to be in control, never really fully trusting enough so that I wouldn't get hurt
yeah,
by the person that supposedly loves me. And then that continued into other relationships. And then further on in that, I went, into my teenage years. And of course, like now it's easy to say, because I know I'm driven by experience, I know I'm driven by achievement, that I just was never happy with stuff, right? I always wanted to try new things. That's not good as a teenager, right? You get into all sorts
yeah,
of
yeah.
trouble.
There's another story. Okay, what were you smoking, or what were you
Really,
trying?
right? And it wasn't like I was terrible. I was very blessed to have a family. We were, middle income family, 4 kids. My mom had 4 under 4,
Wow.
and she liked her wine because of it. But, but I think the thing is that we had a wonderful family, and they taught us that the
Yep.
most important value is family.
Yes.
So I'm very blessed that way. But then even then, you don't feel the courage to come and be yourself at that age because you're still learning who you are. So I remember I got in with the bad crowd. I wasn't doing anything terrible, not breaking the law or anything like
What
that.
was a bad crowd? What does that look like?
Just like, people who were skipping school, smoking drugs, doing
Yeah.
stuff, right? Like, so it was just like not your ideal parenting friendship that you want for your kids. And so I was having a hard time. Plus my mom was a psychotherapist. So,
Ah.
so for her, that was probably we talked about this before she passed a few years ago, but for her, that was even a bigger challenge because she had a relationship issue with her daughter, and she was a psychologist trying to tell other people what to do in their relationships. So that was a
Goodness.
failure for her. But, I was always interested since I was a kid. Mom had these books under her bed on because she put herself back through school to be a psychologist while we were teenagers, which is where I think the entrepreneurial spirit came from me.
Yeah.
But I would go into a room and I'd sneak some books out on body language and like what motivates people. And I'm thinking like, this is really good stuff, right? And so that's where I was fascinated. But our relationship was so tumultuous and so difficult for the family. We tried family counseling, everything. She was like, enough, right? Like I've
Yeah.
got to ship
Yeah.
her away.
Yeah.
And so she did. So one day I had to say goodbye. I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to my friends or anything. Grade 11, she shipped me off to boarding school, 2.5 hours outside of Toronto. I knew
Wow.
nobody. I mean, at that time, I thought it was going to be like the TV show. I'm going to date myself here, but I thought it was going to be like Facts of Life, right? Like this boarding school,
Okay, I remember that one. Oops.
So,
What are
and
you
it
trying to
wasn't.
tell me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to jump in. And first of all, everybody, we're talking to Sandy Gerber, the author of an amazing book called Emotional Magnetism. But we're really behind the curtains looking at the formative years of this lady who's created this book. And, I'm thinking about one thing now. Psychology. I think I could be a psychologist with all the therapy I've had. I see a
Hmm.
psychiatrist every month still.
Hmm.
Everybody knows I had a brain injury and I slipped into depression and all that. But I think, Sandy, everybody should have on their care team, like we have personal trainers, we
Hmm.
should have a psychiatrist or a counselor,
I
because
agree.
we got I say check up from the neck up. We got to keep our brain is the most important thing. So
Yeah.
I was thinking about what you said. So here's Sandy, everybody, and her mom's a psychologist, and there's this relationship developing that maybe not as healthy, and mom says, see you later, you're in boarding school. And
Hmm.
then so the word abandonment comes in.
Yes.
And as an executive coach, I coach people in my business background. I come across people that don't tell me that, but it comes out of their story. And today they're still trying to find significance through achievement, through this,
Hmm.
that. I personally, my dad left home. I never forget it. The two brothers and he left us a 7-page letter. I never
Hmm.
forget it. It had big felt Sharpie writing. he had affairs and things, and he was just a
Oh,
train wreck. But he left home, and that's the last time we saw him. And the home was destroyed. My mom was sick and all that with depression, and I just remember feeling that I I needed to belong to something. And I think this is one of the things I've got out of the thread of your story,
mhm.
that I think, you can define it, that, when we get joined the bad crowd and all, we have to ask, why do we do that? And so could it be that, your unconscious brain is searching for love, searching for
Yes.
significance, right? By the way, I married somebody who would have been you. Well, she was a jock. She was skipped school. Well, she didn't do the drugs, I think. But I said to Anna one day, I said, you know what? If you knew me back then, I was a nerdy guy in school who was picked on, but I was all straight A's trying to escape. We would have gotten married
Yeah.
because I hated you.
Yeah.
So I want to do something now. This is awesome backstory,
Yeah.
everybody. We're talking to Sandy Gerber. Hold up the book again. I'm going to full screen you
Sure.
and just
There
tell
you
us the
go.
title.
So it's called Emotional
Yeah,
Magnetism, How to
awesome,
Communicate. Yeah.
great. And there's even an IP on it. The little award that it
Oh,
had won.
yeah. Yeah. Fancy.
Congratulations, yeah. So everybody, I'm gonna challenge you to again. I don't pitch books, but I have to be frank as an author. Authors get known by reviews that are written. So get Sandy's book. It's a treasure. Read it, but go on Amazon.ca, go on Goodreads.com, post a review, and we need to get the word out about this book. So I have something
Thank you.
special I'm going to share with you now. Let's see if I can do this right. We are live, but I can edit any blips out, so just stand by there. I was just thinking of one thing that, when I challenge you to come on the show,
Mhm.
right? I challenge you with this calling you out, just say, come on, tell me your backstory. And
For sure.
I thought I'd hear this,
Crickets.
but I actually heard this.
Hey, there you go.
Give a guy a new soundboard and look what happens.
That's awesome. I would have fun with that too. Yeah.
I know you got to
That's
get one.
awesome.
So I'm going to share a screen with you. Okay.
Mhm.
So just stand by. I'm not sure why I can't. We're going to add it. There it is, and I just have to go back to it. Just bear with me here. I have to just find out why it's going like that. All right. So what we're doing here, everybody. Again, we're live, so just bear with me. I'm looking at sharing I'm going to stop share. Oh, that's why. All right. Can you see that?
Yes.
All right. I told you I had some surprises for you.
I know. I'm ready.
Yeah, like who is that? So here's the thing, everyone. There's a TED talk on the screen now. So Sandy, just in the moment, just tell us what day that was and what year.
It was 2021, but it was during the pandemic, right? So it was different. Yeah. February, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And the world has morphed, and so a lot of business and public speaking is done through these. It looks real, but it's also done in the studio. So I think
That's right.
I just want to acknowledge that the skills to be able to do something as a speaker when you're in an environment like this, I think those are harder skills. So well done.
Yeah. Thanks.
But what we're going to do is we're going to just, I had this queued up, but I'm going to take it to a certain point. So give me a sec while I take it up there. I think it was towards the end of the talk. So let me just go back here to stream. Okay. So let's just watch this together. And I can edit it properly later. So stand by.
Your partner that were once charming, adorable even, and why you fell in love with that part of them. In long-term relationships, it's more than just helpful to remember your falling in love story. How did you feel on dates in the early days? In my case, I thought my human shield was pretty sexy, and I still do. So what qualities of your partner did you just adore? What words did you use to describe them? The labels you attached to those qualities that gave you those love feelings. Because after all, there's a fine line between adorable and annoyable.
Okay, let's just have a little chat about that while I keep it on the screen. So I had a question for you. First of all, as I give it back, you describe that little segment, but the you called it the armor. I can't remember what you said.
Oh
but
yeah.
Explain what that means.
Oh yeah. Well, so because I'm talking about Kris, my partner, and so he, when we first, he's motivated by safety. So anytime we're anywhere, he is always mindful of that, right? So whether he's walking on the street, he's walking towards the traffic instead of me. He puts himself there as protective armor around me. If I'm in the kitchen and I'm reaching for something sharp, he'll say, "Be careful." Like it's just who he is and what he emotionally needs.
That's actually really who I am. That's exactly what I do.
And if you don't know that, it can really be annoying, frankly,
Totally.
right? Like it could
Yeah.
just be like, what do you think I'm an idiot? I know how to reach for a knife, right? So it's just really important that we understand what we emotionally need in the relationship. And then once you do, it's like you kind of chuckle and laugh it off, right?
Yeah.
Like it comes up all the time, Tom, all the time.
Yeah, one of the things everybody from the book that we've been talking about, emotional magnetism, and actually from this whole piece here, you know, there's, I start reading your book, and then sometimes I start looking at your TED Talk, and then there's this part of me that gets angry at you because I'm what you just said. I'm Kris, and so it's like I'm going like, okay, don't point the finger at me, man. Like, come on, where's your BS? And then I get to this part of the TED Talk and part of the book where this comes out, and I'm going like, she gets it. What you're defining for us is absolutely true, everybody. I call it a paradigm shift where in relationships, don't try to change the other person, work on yourself and improve yourself. Now, I'm just going to say one more thing, then we'll turn this back on, Sandy. I've been married 26 years. My first marriage failed after 7, and my wife and I are opposites. And man, that thing that you said, like you say, you know, be careful. He says, be careful. I literally do that all the time. What we've had to learn, and through reading your book, I've learned so much, and watching you explain this about your failures in marriage and things, is I've had to make those major shifts, and so has Anna. And in fact, it's changed our relationship for the better. So let's go back into the video. I'm just going to keep playing it, and we'll watch a bit more. All right, here we go.
A line that's made up of labels that you get to choose. So if you want to keep the romance alive in your relationship, I suggest you become complimentary again. And remember to always label with care. Thank you.
All right. So that, I'm just going to stop that video there, everyone. There it is. So tell us about that. Tell us that last piece.
So label with care, right? Like it's essentially, there's a part of my book about this too. And it's really about identifying, because what we first found attractive ends up being the thing that really annoys us, right? And so we, you know, we'll find someone's really ambitious, or we find that they're doing tons of achievements, and maybe that's something we really like. And then after a while, we're like, they're a workaholic. They never do anything else, right? So the thing is, or you know, someone's really conscious of, you know, the legacy they're going to have in the future, or they're going to save money for investment, that kind of stuff. And in the future, you're like, okay, seriously, can they leave the bargain deals alone, right? Like this is annoying, right? So I guess the thing is when you're conscious of what you're calling them, and not just your words, but in your mind, right? That's more important. Like, what are you actually saying to yourself or labeling their behavior? And once you just acknowledge that you're actually doing that, that's the first step. And then the second is really just being aware of, okay, that's their emotional need. Now I've just swapped bad labels with 4, right?
Yeah.
They're either safety, achievement, value, or experience. And once you know that, you have this like unbelievable amount of empathy for these people, because now you're like, okay, that's just who they are, you know?
Yeah. I love it. Everybody, again, you'll have to get the book Emotional Magnetism and read it. What I like about the book, I said in my review, is there's a link to a website of resources, but there's little exercises and things, and it really opens you up. I want to go on another storytelling journey. My brain is jumps quadrants.
Let's go. I'm with you.
Actually, you and I both know a common person who was a coach for us in TED. I think you know who she is. And I never forget. I never forget when I first did, because the first time I tried out a lot of people don't know this unless they've seen my podcast on it. I tried 3 times to do my TED Talk. The first time I did it, and I was shortlisted to 25. And everybody, when you do a TED Talk and apply like Sandy did, there could be 100 applicants, and there's only 12 spots. So Sandy, you may not have known this, but I didn't make it. And they said, you know, we want to hear more about you. we want to hear your story. And I got to be honest, Sandy, I was confused. So basically when this coach, let me tell you just the rest of the story. So the second year I tried out, and the same thing, I got shortlisted, and the talk I wanted to deliver was about forgiveness and about my dad, because I had actually taken that step and met him for coffee after being estranged all my life. Sadly, we never had the next coffee because he passed by a heart attack. And I'm sorry that your mom passed. I heard you say that. So it's like, then they say, well, it's just not the right topic. I'm going like, come on, this is my father. This is like I was so bent out of shape out because I thought, now I'm just disgracing my dad. Like I can't do a TED talk on that. More ego in the way. And then so finally I got my injury and I got concussed. And one day this coach calls me and she says, I just want to meet you. And so we go to Terminal City Club in Vancouver where I sometimes hang out. And she says, I just want to hang around you and listen to you. And so she started coaching me, and this was preparing me to apply again. And I said, why are you here? She said, well, the curator sent me and said he sees something in you. Now, Sandy, this is what I'm telling you, this not to project it, but I see that in your story that people see us and they see that in us, but sometimes we don't bring out that story. So I'll finish by saying this. I get on this Zoom and I'm doing I got my script written. I'm doing my first coaching. And she says, stop. You're boring and you're stoic. I'm going like, I've spoken all my life, and and I'm thinking I'm so great and all, but my ego again. So I said, give me some real feedback. This is what she said. I'm sorry it took a while to get to that. She said, in your first try, they didn't like you. She said, because you talked about your book, you talked about being a CEO, she said, they don't care about that. And Sandy, I had that feedback from 360 reviews in my career. I'm going to be vulnerable here. I still remember when I became a CEO, I was 31 years old and I was very arrogant, and I was behaving the way I did probably from my childhood and it was like Tom's grandstanding. It's all about him. It's all about significance. I would push teams hard to achieve because what I was really doing, like you've taught us, is I was looking for achievement to replace the love I didn't get from my father. And unconsciously that everybody overplayed. I didn't even know what was going on. So I actually tried out for the second TED Talk, and on the day of my audition was my dad's funeral.
Oh, wow.
I moved the funeral. I convinced the family to move the funeral, believe it or not. I did it, and I was a basket case. I didn't make it. I was at an all-time low, and then I got injured, and I had suicidal thoughts and things happening.
My goodness.
And I got to tell you, Sadie, that when I read your book and I read your story and you brought out this real part, that's why I love you and your story is that. And I started realizing this, that we come from a world in business where I get people all the time where it's all about, look at my book, look at my achievements. And then I remember saying this on one of my other shows to somebody, I like your perspective, that most people can't relate to us. And here's why, because I believe this, I'm not telling you to believe it, that most of the world lives on $2 a day. Most of the people aren't in this top 5% income earners, business people, and they don't give a shit about that.
Right.
The tribe I'm projecting to in my work, my platform, is the 95%. And so what's really cool about you and why everybody, I think she's just hit a home run with her work, is that you appear on paper to be one of these people that most people don't care about, just like they told me in TED Talk. But the truth is, what you're bringing through your work and by telling these stories, people are going to watch and go, I want to follow her because she has the courage to say how she was broken and that's my story. So I'm going to shut up now and I'm going to give it back to you to respond to anything I said there. But then I want you to take us back into your story about what made you write the book.
Yeah. Tom, thank you. Thank you for sharing that too, and just putting that in perspective for everybody and for doing this show, right? Like it's your show that's really going to help people. So thank you. My story, I mean, the reason I wrote the book, so I'd done the high school issues. I'd been away at boarding school. I had to create who I was, right? And that was actually, everything's hindsight, right? But that was when I really created who Sandy was, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, there's no one around me, no family, complete strangers. I could be whoever I wanted to be. And I realized at that moment, I'm going to be who I want to be. And
that's awesome.
I still get shivers. I still get shivers thinking about this stuff because it was such an amazing moment and terrifying at the same time. Like, absolutely. Anything that I've done.
What do you say to kids out there who, well, they're younger, but they get older and they don't even know who they are because somebody's told them who they are? When you said I wanted to be who I wanted to be, just how do you Like, how
Well,
do you
I
do
think
it?
it's just like I really just had this aha moment where I was like, we were sitting. Okay, this is funny. We were sitting in, just popped into my head. We were sitting in the butt room. Okay, so there's actually a smoking room, and my parents, signed me away. I went to boarding school, and my mom was like, I said to her, please let me have access to the butt room because that's going to be the nucleus of this boarding school, right?
Oh, this
Everybody's
was at the
smoking
boarding school.
cigarettes. Yeah, yeah. And so I was like, okay. And I remember sitting in that room, didn't know anybody. I was really scared, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're just never put in that kind of position, like, here, become yourself, right?
Yeah.
And in your face. And so I remember smoking and thinking, someone was asking someone, okay, so what's your story? What are you in for? Kind of thing. And it's not in jail, it was a boarding school, but that's how they were saying it. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to come over to me. And what is my story? Well, what do I want my story to be? And then I was like, wait a minute, who am I? And that's kind of how I went. And so it's not about stories. It was more about who do I want to be right now so that I'm accepted, understood, and heard. And that's where it all started, right? So I just was real. I said, I don't really have a dramatic story. I don't have this. I just was really honest. And
I
that
love
was
that.
freeing, very freeing.
I love that, everybody. That's a teaching moment on the show. Come back and watch that segment over again. I'm so honored that you said with what you said. So I'm going to read one more thing out of your exchange. Everybody, I'm just looking at a document here. And then I'm going to talk about it for a minute and then just making a point here. She says, so what I said back to Sandy's, I said, I watched your TED Talk. And then I had the privilege actually of watching you afterwards in a room, and they were asking you about the experience. And this is what you wrote to me. I cried after the TEDx show because I was not at all happy with my talk after all the hard work I put into it. I found it not authentic, too rehearsed, overcoached. I couldn't connect with the camera in an empty auditorium. I need to connect with people, which is why the rehearsals with real people were way better. Now, I want to just riff on that. This is such a cool thing. And I say to people, I'm not asking you to believe what I say, but just understand what I think I know. Everybody, you saw the TED Talk. I saw the TED Talk. I just played it, and go back and watch it again and again. By the way, go to YouTube, find Sandy's talk, like it, because that helps the analytics. I thought you knocked it out of the park. I saw a tremendous speech, and the truth is the only one who believed you're not good enough was you.
That's right.
I can tell you right now. So here is the magic about what Sandy's teaching us, everybody, is that we have a choice when we're adults to believe in the truth or not. And so Sandy's coming off a TED Talk, and I think she knocked it out of the park. Beautiful, awesome, even in that setting. And she's thinking she's crying. So think about this. My daughter she's 24 now in university across the country. She was in ballet, and she would come off the stage and she would be crying, comparing to the other kids, saying she wasn't good enough. And now she was like 5'6", right? I was not a good father growing up because I was command and control, because that's the way I learned from my dad. No BS. That I wasn't mean or anything, but I was a lecturer, and I set the bar high, perfectionist, because remember, my way of defining myself was by achieving things. And what did I do in that moment, Sandy? I'm going to ask you to tell me the same answer for yourself. What did I do? I said to her, I said, sweetheart, I said, you were tremendous. Daddy loves you. What your dance was amazing. And this big smile came out. And now later in life, I know now why, studying brain science, that she believes everything she hears. So somebody put in her up to that moment that she's not good enough unless she's the best. And guess who put that probably in her? Me. And so the last part of my story I want to tell you is that when she left for university, and she's 4 years now, she was, it's hard to talk about, but she was accepted into 5 universities, and she went to New Brunswick. I'm going like, why are you doing that? And I'm heartbroken, and mom's heartbroken. And she's sitting in my lap the day we're getting ready to get her on the plane. And she says, well, you were never there. And it broke my heart. So 2 years later, when she came back, after all the work I've been doing, and I think God gave me an opportunity through my injury, concussion, to rethink some things. I did what Steve Jobs tried to do on the top of the roof deck, talking to his daughter in the movie Jobs. And I sat her down, and I had a lot of courage I had to get out of this. And if I had had your book back then and read it, it would have probably helped me more. I sat with her, and she came home, and I said, I want to talk to you. And he said, I'm sorry. I said, Daddy was poorly made. I said, everything I've ever thought about you from when you were born, you're the most courageous, beautiful person. I said, I don't care what you do for a living. I don't care how good you are. Or it doesn't matter how good you are and who you marry. It doesn't matter. I said, I want you to know that you are beautiful and enough right through life. I said, I just couldn't say it to you. And I made you feel like you're not, probably the opposite. You know what happened? This huge armor came off, and my relationship with her today is completely different.
Awesome. Authentic, right?
So I go back to Sandy's story here, everybody, about the boarding school and all those traumas she experienced as a child. And, you know, somebody needed to tell her that. And so you can see the impact now in adulthood of a TED Talk that was brilliant, and she's crying still about it. She can't see in her own eyes.
Yeah.
Let's give it back to you.
Yeah, you know, a lot of that was like because I know that I've always been searching for that acceptance, that undercurrent of acceptance and love, essentially just wanting to be loved and accepted. I'm always looking for the achievement. I'm always looking for the next goal. And also because I'm motivated by experience. I mean, my number one magnet is experience. I don't know how Kris does it, seriously. Because I mean, I'm like a 3-year-old, right? Like I have such an insatiable curiosity, right? That just takes me to the craziest places. But that's positive, but it's also a lot to take on. So
of course,
when I finished that TED Talk and I remember leaving the space thinking, it was really weird. I didn't speak to people, or I'd only seen 3 or 4 people that I'd seen before. And I don't know to talk to a camera as opposed to talk to people, or live stage, auditorium full of people. So I kind of felt like I wasn't making that connection. Everyone said, oh yeah, this is great. You did great, blah, blah, blah. But you don't believe it until you believe it, like you're saying, right?
Of course.
And then I came home, and a couple of weeks later, it was going to be played on the TV and everything. And I sat there with Kris, and it's very weird to watch yourself, right? Like to see yourself, because you're just even worse, right? Like you're like the worst.
Well, you're your worst critic. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so bad. And so I was like, oh God, seriously, that shirt, that blouse, whatever. Like all these things are going on in your head. And then you have to quiet that. And then I was like, okay, did the message land? Like I had to live in that space. Like, did the message land that we do truly need to label with care? And that once you understand emotional needs of another person, it's easier, like you're free. And then I came in and had that chat with the whole team, right? Like, how did you feel? And I just was like, I felt like I blew it. Like I really did. And I was grateful for all the work to get there. Cause like anything, my family knows really well, I'm achievement driven. So I do stuff and they go, what? You're going to do that? And then I do it. And then afterwards they're like, how can you do the next thing? Right. And that's why my company was called Next. Like I'm always on to the next thing. Right. And so it was really weird for me to just kind of have that experience. I think in the future, there might be another talk for me, but I do it in a room full of people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think anybody knows anything about doing a TED Talk, it's really a journey to do it, and that's the part you have to feel good about, because very few people do it, and to get you have to try out multiple times because there's not enough spots. But that's the thing. I want to go back on this. I have to tell you too. I think you know this, that I have a little replica of a human brain behind me.
Yeah.
And so I'm working on, actually it's a side project of mine. I'm actually close to getting accepted to do a PhD. I've always wanted to do that. But what happened, Sandy, is when I got injured and my life's changed, my brain injury, they sent me to all this learning and clinics about the brain. So I decided, what am I going to do that story? And so I'm actually really focused on neuroscience right now and about using that in my work to teach.
Great.
So, one of the things I thought about when you were talking is, this is absolutely true. Our brains, I think I've read it somewhere in your book, or maybe you said it, it's the fight or flight response. So our brains look for danger. They're wired to look for danger. It was in the old days, I guess, when we were cavemen and hunting, you always had to split second. Your brain had to say, is it good or bad, fight or run away? And that's the irrational brain. And so that's what happens when I saw what you said about your TED Talk. I knew exactly where you're coming from, because I figured that about myself too, that you're automatically looking for what's wrong, what's the danger, what's wrong with that. Here's the thing, and I'm going to challenge you on this. The choice you have, you can make this choice because of your rational brain. You wrote about this. You can choose to see the good in it. You can choose to see, you know what, my message was clear. I was in this weird space and it was awful, but I did it. And you know what? How many people had to do TED Talks this way? It's a huge different skill.
Yeah.
And here's what I think. Now that Sandy's done that talk in an environment of a studio, she's going to get hired more around the world to do talks because we're in this new reality where they want speakers who have that skill to deliver. So all I'm doing now is I'm not projecting, but I'm actually using what I've taught my brain to stop, pause, look for the truth, and then look for, once I find a positive, it just flows out of me. Now I'm not thinking
Right.
about, and that's the thing that I know you and I battle every day. We go to that danger. So I know Kris probably looking, you're talking about, I'm pretty sure he would have said, honey, you nailed it.
Oh yeah.
But that's the gift of Sandy's story, everybody. So you know what? If you think you're not good enough, here's the thing: you have this ability to just choose. Like in a moment, you can choose.
Yeah. And Tom, I think it's also that we need to just accept the reality of what we need, right? What we emotionally need. Like, and we've never been taught that, right? So I think for me, when I went through this journey, it was based on a very dark time I was having in a divorce, second marriage. And the first one was like, very quick, 4 months. And I was still writing thank you notes. That was over. It was like just so humiliating.
Where were your fingerprints on that?
What's that?
Where were your fingerprints on that one?
Oh, well, seriously, it was just basically, that it was, we moved it along too fast, I think, and then he just got scared in the reality of like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm not really sure this is my deal. I think that was actually his words. So anyways.
So you were too, if I'm hearing what you're saying, you were assertive and you were trying to advance the relationship.
Oh yeah, for sure. Right. That's, next, everything's next, right? What's next for our relationship? What's next, so that's who I am, experience and achievement. So then the second marriage, was a high school sweetheart kind of thing. And we had a wonderful time. And then we had 2 children. And then things went to shit, like just for a variety of reasons. But it was very negative environment and toxic. And I had to leave. And so I had just 2 kids by myself, and I was trying to co-parent with someone that was very challenging. And I felt like at that point, it was really hard because I felt like a fraud. Like, and I have this thing, I can't be incongruent. Like I just can't. It's weird. So here I was, like daytime, everyone's like, you know how to market and communicate. You're the expert over here. And then at home, I couldn't even get him to pick the kid up from soccer. So it was like really hard. We were always fighting. And I remember this one night, I wrote about it in the book, but I remember this one night, it was like one of those rabbit hole internet nights, right? Where you just end up searching and then searching and then searching. And you're like, how the heck did I get here? And so I was searching for like a sales technique that was going to help grow my business. And I thought, like, good information, valuable information doesn't age. It just gets repurposed, right? So I thought, okay, I'm going to go back to the 50s, the 60s, see if there's some sales technique. Because I was now a single mom, entrepreneur, having to make sure I had a reoccurring income. So that fueled my fire. And I remember I stumbled across this book, and it was Roy Garn's The Magic Power of Emotional Appeal. And it looks like a comic book. Like it really did. It looked like, really cheesy, creative and stuff. Anyways, I bought it. It came dusted off the dust from a secondhand New York bookstore. And I poured a glass of red wine, and I sat down on my secondhand used couch, now that I was a single mom in this little tiny place. And I devoured the book. Like I loved it. And what I realized was, like, there was parts that were a bit academic and parts that were just out of date in their terminology. But the gist of it was that we were all really driven by these 4 emotional needs. Now, he named them different things, and there was a different profile there for manipulation, which I didn't like. But what it did for me was, it was like, oh my gosh, everything I have done and every choice I have made, it just filtered everything for me, and it all made sense. Like it really just, so I stumbled, like the next day I ran into the office, I shared it with my employee and said, look, I think I found something here that could help us. Right. And she's like, what is it? I said, well, apparently we have 4 emotional appeals, he called them, but I say 4 emotional needs, which I call emotional magnets. And once we figure out which one it is, because you essentially think of it as like a 4-lane highway. S, safety, achievement, value, and experience. If you think of that 4-lane highway, you drive in one of those lanes, right? Or maybe 2, and you swerve back and forth. So essentially, I was like,
or if you're like,
or you're going through all.
If you're like some of us, you're having car crashes in that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And not getting out of your lane, right? And so I realized, oh wow, I'm driven by experience and achievement. And she was able to pick hers out really quickly. And at that moment, I thought, you know what? This is something that's going to help people. I've got to make it simpler. I got to make it easier. And so I just started writing, and that was 10 years ago.
Hold up the book again and just tell us the title.
Yeah. Here it is here. It's called Emotional Magnetism.
Yeah. And so you've talked about these 4 needs, just rattle
4
them off.
magnets. Yeah. So You think of it as save, right? Like,
Yeah.
because it's saving your relationship and your sanity, basically. But safety, achievement, value, and experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. Everybody, it's a teaching moment. Come back and again get the book, rate it, please. Post on Amazon, Goodreads. I gave it a 5-star rating, and it's such a great, good book because there's resources in it where it's almost like one of those wisdom books you can keep visiting back. And there's a lot of books that are written. I kind of categorize yours as one that's for everybody, not just professionals, but average people, single moms. That was the thing that you just said about being a single mom. And I think that's a whole nother chapter we'll have to talk about another time. But you know how many people out there are single moms struggling?
Yeah.
And even to know that you failed through that and you got back up what you did. I mean, just applying your wisdom is worthy of talking about.
Thanks, Tom. Like that's the piece I do hear from a lot of readers. And one of what they're saying is like, okay, I've failed. Now hearing your story, it makes me feel like I can try again.
That's right.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's really great. The other thing is that people are saying this book is not necessarily like one of the best quotes I think I've got so far is it's really a book about self-acceptance. Like just first of all, if you are having trouble in your relationship, you have to understand what you emotionally need first. And once you do that, and then share, first of all, everything will make sense. And then secondly, once you do that and you share it to the people in your life, like I did it at work. I brought the quiz to work and I had everybody on my team do it. And then I realized, oh, this person's driven by value. They're going to be paying attention to their salary raises, what kind of bonus they can do. That's going to motivate them. Or this person is all about experience. Okay, we need to do more team building exercises, that kind of stuff. So it really does help you not only as a person in your personal relationship, but also in your business relationships and with your teams.
Yeah, it's a great book to read for that wisdom, everybody. Again, you can pick it up. We'll put it in the show notes. One of the things you said kind of triggered a thought in my head about my needs. And so this is what I experienced. And I don't expect you to comment on it because it's my own experience. But my first marriage ended in 7 years. I just married too young, but I realized I went into that unhealthy with relationships. And I wrote about this in some of my work that I figured out through my own therapy. And particularly as a business leader at the higher levels, I was having trouble with relationships with people in my teams because here's the thing. In my first marriage, I was looking for something to make me happier. And so it wasn't provided. And what I realized later is my brain was thinking, if I can fix this person, then I might be happier. There's a dark side of that first marriage that I won't tell because of confidentiality, but so I went into relationships, Sandy, trying to fix other people. So I married my wife, Anna, who's 26 years now, and you and her have a similar personality. I think she's certainly positive. She's a fun-based person, very communicative. She's the one who wants to go out and network and things. People say, Tom, you must be a networker. I am, but it's hard work. I'm more the kind of guy that I'm exhausted after. But here's the thing: when we go to bed, she's on that side of the bed. Sometimes I'm here, and my foot goes like this, and slowly it's touching her. And the first few years of our relationship, she just like shove it away and go, "I'm trying to sleep here." My personality type is I'm expressive and emotional based, so I need hugs. I don't need them to live, but I appreciate those. But here's the question: when you realize you have some needs and you find out you can't get it from the person you're married, I don't think you could just toss that person away. I think what I did is I've learned is you have to adapt and look for other ways that she can fulfill that. So what Anna does is she shows me love in different ways. I mean, I'm not talking about sex here because that's part of every relationship, but I have to look for love in other ways. I'm very detail oriented, so I'll clean the house or something, organize things. She'll walk in, she won't even notice. And I used to get all pissed off and say, "How do you?" And now it's like, I'm happy. I did it for myself. I didn't do it for her. But I just wanted to say that about needs. My biggest need that I needed was to feel like I was enough and loved and believe and find out, like you said, true self, who I really was. Everybody, once I figured that out and I can wake up in the morning and I do pray and I have my faith. But Sandy, when I wake up now, it doesn't matter what the voice is in other people. I don't wait for other people to fill my need.
Good.
And I think that's when I arrived, and it's still hard. So after your multiple marriages and all that,
Yeah.
What makes you are getting married? What makes this now special, and in your mind, one that is going to last? I'm putting you
Yeah.
on the spot.
Oh yeah, no, I love,
Chris, watch this.
yeah.
Watch it
Yeah.
again and
Yeah. Oh
again.
no. He knows I happily share this story. So the thing is, I mean, I really did think, ironically, you believe whether things happen for a reason or not. I remember telling the kids just after their dad and I split, they asked me, so daddy has a girlfriend. When are you going to have a boyfriend? And I was like, oh, that's going to be for a long time, like not long, long time. And then they said, well, how long? And they were 4 and 3. And I said, oh, I don't know, until you're like 11 or 10 or something. Right. Like I was thinking it's not happening for a long time. And they're like, oh, okay. So I said, don't mention it again. Okay. Like it's just going to be the 3 of us, 3 musketeers. So come around the time where, of course, my eldest is 11 years old, Kris walks into my life. And,
How long ago was that?
8 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool that, we were working at the same company. I was the MC of the Christmas show, right? So Christmas party. And I got up in front of a room full of mostly men and said, who wants to get lucky? That's right. Okay. I was like, I'm talking about a draw prize, people. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyways, and the winner was Kris. And he came up and I was like, okay, this is interesting. Then I went back to the table where I had just left my stuff to sit and it was right beside Kris. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then fast forward that evening, we had a great conversation. He was living on the island, so we didn't think there was going to be anything that was happening here. Fast forward the relationship a couple weeks. Now we've moved to text and we're chatting and stuff. And I'm like so out of touch with dating. I mean, when I left that party, I turned to him and I said, email me. It's like, who says that? Right. Uh-huh. So anyways, it was pretty funny. He took it to text. We started texting and sharing a lot. And then we went on our first date. And the first date, I said to him, hey, I just need to tell you that this is what you're signing up for. I'm motivated by achievement and experience. And there's 4 possibilities. And that's what you're going to get is that. And I explained what those were quickly. And then I said, what about you? And he's like, okay, well, depending on what you just told me, I'd say I'm safety and value. And I'm like, okay. And now I know what I'm signing up for. Right. And we've never changed from that moment. So
I think that, it's funny, the life sent you on a journey and here you are. It took going through failed marriages, but
yes,
you didn't give up. It's like TED talking, but you kept going, seeking the true meaning of who you are, why everybody I see her not getting it, maybe early years, but why do I do what I do? Why are these things failing? And I'm going to be really bold about this to my audience. Some of you out there, you got to just kind of get off the pot. You've got to look in the mirror and say, there's something not right with how I am. Mm-hmm. And stop blaming every failure in life, pointing the finger at the other person. Somebody asked me once, Sandy, why did your first marriage fail? And I said, it wasn't her, it was me. Yeah. That's what I say. Yeah. And I'm not like a lot of guys won't be vulnerable. It's like, it's a strength to be, but it was because of what I was projecting and trying to get out of her. I couldn't change her.
Well, yeah, and then when you figure out, like, really for me, it was the same for Kris. When he found out he was actually motivated by safety and value, now it comes up everywhere, like everywhere. So now it just makes sense. Like now you're like, okay, so like, here's an example. We were going to look for patio furniture. I'll answer your question about our relationship in a minute though, because this is a funny story, but we're going to look for patio furniture. It's summer. We know we're dying of heat. Are you doing okay, Tom? Because I know it's hot there.
Oh yeah.
Okay, because it's pretty hot.
I'm a by birth an Indian Fijian, but gosh, it's hot.
Seriously, I'm like you're sticking in. It's awesome. Yeah. So we're looking for patio furniture, and for me, being driven by experience, I'm like, I just want to have a nice. I don't care if it's like really beautiful looking. I just want to have a comfortable place where I can read outside, listen to the birds, the experience of it all, right? So it's really how I sit in the chair that's going to matter to me, how it feels. With him, we go shopping with him. He's like, if it was value, he's looking for obviously the best deal that we can get and see what's on sale. I already know that. So I don't have to go, you're so cheap or, oh my God, like none of that, right? Because I already know he's looking for a good deal. And like the man will never pay for shipping. He hates it. It takes a piece out of his heart. Anyways, so then if it was achievement, we'd be looking for the right brand of kind of furniture. And then finally for safety, he's like, okay, well, if we have one we like, everything's working, check. And then we get to the safety piece and he's like, well, how are we going to store this? Where is it? How is this going to be easy for us? Is it waterproof? Like all that kind of stuff. So these are conditions that happen all the time in every decision that you make as a couple, right? And so once you know that, it's just kind of, you just laugh it off, right? Like he's like, this morning he's like, oh, you're going to have a great experience and you're having an achievement today and stuff because I'm on the show with you, right? So it's really cool, like just how that comes to be.
Yeah, that's where I was going when I said that about it's through adversity and through not failures, but where you have setbacks in relationships that there's two types of people. You and I know this, Sandy. People who will say, I'm a seeker. I got to find out why, but they're open to finding out that maybe if I go down the rabbit hole, I might find that it's me too.
That's right.
And so so what I like about what you said is you guys have figured out each other. You guys have figured out who you are for the most part, what your differences are, and you're going to accept that. When I got married to Anna, I saw right away that we were just so opposite. I didn't even really know if I could handle that because, as I said, in high school, I would not have married someone like that. But
the opposites are great, like that,
Yeah, that's I'm not overly religious, but I am a baptized Catholic, and I denied my faith when I was a kid, by the way, because of what was going on in my home. But when I had my brain injury, I went back to the Bible, and you know what? I'm just going to say this, Andy, and it's not a denominational show, that when I had nothing left in my life, I didn't know where I was going after that injury. I actually started wearing a cross. My wife bought it for me. I asked her, and then I started reading this book. And the Bible, people don't understand, but what the Bible taught me to do is something I never was taught when I was a kid, and it's how to love other people, how to be kind, and those life basic things. But in that whole experience of my faith, I came across this realization that I think God put Anna in my life for a reason.
For sure.
Because there's things that, and in your life too, Kris is there, because there's things that we need to be taught lessons still. I need to be taught, Tom, sometimes you are arrogant. Tom, sometimes you are a bit whiny and go on about. Tom, sometimes you have what I don't have, which is you're somebody who can be intimate and express yourself. That's what she gets from me. And so I think that I always used to say that opposites attract, but I think there is a force that puts people together.
I totally agree, Tom. I totally agree. Like my whole family calls Kris my angel, right? And I believe he is, but he also really grounds me, and I also elevate him. So this is the thing that you end up, I think opposites, like I say in my TED Talk, complementary. Like they're really complementary. Once you understand each other, you just complement each other so nicely.
Yeah. I want to do something now as we go to wrap up the show, and I stay on a little bit longer on some of my shows, but this is one of those shows because the stories are so great. I want to see if you'll let me do this. I'm creating a new segment for my show. It's actually called the Heavy Mental Health Show, believe it or not.
Nice.
And part of this whole thing about what you have been teaching us is there's a big mental health component to what we're saying, stressors and all that. So nobody's heard this. So I've played it once, actually, I think on my show, but I want to play the intro music now for fun. See if I can pull it up here. Hold on. And part of why I'm doing this is because I'd like you to think about being a guest on when I launch this new platform. So
love to.
All right. I think this is it. If I got it wrong, I'm going to be in trouble. Nope, that's not it. Hold on. Okay, so I got to just tell you a little bit about this. My intros are done by a DJ, and I usually tell them up front about my personality. So when I was a kid, I used to listen to heavy metal music, Sandy, because exactly. But honestly,
I can't do it right. Like it doesn't look good on me.
I lived in my room because of what was happening at home, but I had vinyl records of Vince Gill, country, every genre.
Nice.
Michael Jackson, stuff like that. But there was a buddy I work with at Revenue Canada filing tax returns. That's what I did after school. And Al Chesky, I remember him, and he was this big stocky guy, and he was into Iron Maiden. And what I started noticing is the noise, but I was attracted to the words. But then I started studying some of these bands on why they put on their masks and they do that. And it's because they're attracting people that you and I attract in our tribe, people who are seeking and searching. And so I said to him, I said, okay, it's got to be something that fits that genre. But also, I just went through anxiety, depression, and it's like all this noise in my head. So I want the beginning of the show to be like you're in mental illness and you're all
a little bit of chaos.
Yeah. And then what I want you to listen for, Sandy, is the primal scream. And I won't play the outro, but so here we go.
Cool.
All right. Stand by.
Thank you for listening to the
No, that's not it.
Welcome to the Heavy Mental Health Show.
Nice.
And now,
That's
here to
awesome.
help teach leaders how to lift the stigma of mental health, your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
That's awesome. I love it. That's awesome. I love the thing. You should do that every morning. It kind of gets you up and awake, right?
I know, hey. So I'm just going to put it out there, and you're invited to come back once I launch.
Awesome.
I want to have you come back, and I want us to have a conversation about the other side of this, which is the
Yeah.
mental health and mental illness, which
Yeah,
can
happy
come
to.
out of a lot of what we're talking about. So on that note, as we wrap
Yeah.
up, I'm going to honor you. I do this with all my shows. People don't see it, but I'm writing them down as Sandy speaks. So these are 4 leadership words. The first one is wisdom. And they say the difference between knowledge and wisdom is time. And look at what this lady's done and what she's made it a point of her life learning. 2 is courage, because you did this and I poked you pretty good, but I think that you're real, and I appreciate that. 3 is
Thank you.
resilient, because you look at it all, not just the business, but all the things Sandy did in her life, which are life challenges and successes, kept coming back. And 4 is you are success. When you look in the mirror and you watch TED Talk, I want you to promise that you're going to say to yourself, I'm good. I knocked it out of the park. Because the truth is, you don't know if I'm watching your TED Talk and I don't like it, because you're not in my brain.
That's right.
So we're going to give
That's right.
we're going to give you an award, and because we don't live too far apart, we'll have to. I want to get together and give it to you in person, and then
Thank you, Tom.
also take a photo. But I'm going to full screen myself for a minute here, and so you see on the back there on the TV screen, that is called a challenge coin. I think. Have you heard of these?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Okay, good. So they're created in World War II, and they're carried by soldiers to commit community. And AA's got them where my dad was for 22 years. They got them first everywhere. When I started the show, I wanted to have an award that is very hard to get. 8 billion people on the planet, but only 40 of these or so go out a year. And they're now carried in, I think, at least 17 countries. So by accepting this, you're now a quiet warrior. You commit to continue to do your work, continue to live the life that you are, but also continue to create that legacy you're doing, which is continue to teach and help others. So welcome to the Quiet Warrior Tribe.
Oh, thank you so much. That's such an honor. I really appreciate that, Tom, especially being driven by achievement. That's massive.
I know. Hey, I was going like, nah, maybe I'll just pull it off there and say you didn't get it. You failed. But no, you're welcome. So we'll arrange through getting a place to connect and get that over to you. So last word to you. Where can people get that book? Hold it up again.
Yeah. So Emotional Magnetism. It's also available as an audiobook.
Okay,
So
good.
I had more fun with the audiobook actually, because I threw in a few extra little surprises.
Awesome.
So it can be at Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It's everywhere.
And so to get a hold of you, we put it on the screen, sandygerber.com, for any of your services and what you do.
Yeah.
And I just want to say congratulations to you and Kris. Wish you all the best with what's ahead.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Everybody live that life like you see Sandy do, with passion, purpose. Find the true meaning of your life and live that life that you deserve and desire. Okay,
Thanks
Sandy,
very much, Tom.
Sorry. That you say that again?
Thanks very much, Tom. It's a pleasure being here.
You're welcome. 3, 2, 1. Okay, what I want to do now, I should have told you as we prep. I'm doing this new thing, and people are telling me it's kind of neat. People like, how when before you film something, the camera goes on and they start seeing people just being themselves. I'm going to put my outro music on. It's 26 seconds.
Okay.
I'll edit all this out. And as that plays, we're going to keep us on screen, and you just kind of, without trying to look contrived, just try to just keep yourself busy in your studio. Like maybe you're packing up, you're picking up your you turn around, you whatever. And when it's done, then we'll cut and we'll say goodbye to you. So okay, cool. So just hang on, I'm gonna get it back here. I'm just wilting, I know you are.
I know, right?
Oh my God.
You did great.
Thank you. All right, so I'll go 3, 2, 1, and then just sort of be yourself. I'm gonna put these back on, so I want that in the shot. All right, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you for listening to The Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca.
All right, 3, 2, 1, cut. There we are. All right, last
Yay.
last from you before we die. How did it go?
Oh, that was great. Yeah.
Awesome.
Loved it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you for peeling back the onion. I liked it.
you were fabulous. So we're now for life. We're connected, and
Awesome.
what I'm going to
Thank
do
you.
is I'm going to produce this, and I'm going to accelerate the release of it. So if there is a day or a date that's meaningful coming up, I have 2-3 months in the can of shows that I haven't released. So you
wow.
would normally
Okay.
be releasing out,
Yeah.
but if you want, I'll release it within the next 2 weeks. You tell me
Yeah, that'd
what's
be great. I mean, I'm on vacation on like actually not accessible by phone because I'm going sea
yeah.
kayaking
Okay.
from the 6th to the 14th. So even if it's after the 14th,
Okay.
giving you that time,
Then you
then I
can
can help promote it,
Yeah.
right?
And
Yeah.
what happens is on StreamYard, I can take the act when I produce this because I'm going to make it a little pretty. I can actually. Do you need to get that?
Nope.
Okay.
It
I think
wasn't
it's your.
supposed to ring. I don't. Oh, it's coming through my watch.
No,
That's
that's our
why.
That's
Yeah.
our temperature warning going on. You know how on StreamYard, this platform, I said we go live on 5 social media feeds.
Yeah.
What's really cool about StreamYard is I can take the final tape, produce it, upload it again, and then reset a broadcast. So we actually will go live again, but using the actual final
Oh,
production.
cool. Okay.
So you're gonna
That's awesome.
get this again, but looking nicer across 5 feeds. And then
Great.
the podcast will go out, and I think looking at my stats, we're in about 17 countries
That's
downloads.
wonderful.
And then I also have the surprise. I'll send you that little review I did on that little JPEG.
Yeah. Thank you. That's so
Right.
nice.
Yeah, I'm just going to email that to you after. So those are all
Awesome.
digital assets you can continue to use.
Thank you. Oh,
All I
yeah.
ask, all I ask is that you just
Tag you.
you just enjoy, and it was a pleasure. So
Thank you so much, Tom.
we got to go.
Yeah, but so much work you're putting into this. Thank you so much, Tom, for all you do for everybody. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. One day I'd like to sit down and talk to you about that. Like, we both have parallel different missions, but there is a lot of strategy behind what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And you're a strategist, but I not for any need or anything, but I'd
Yeah.
like to explain to you more about, because this is all part of a bigger thing I'm working on. If I can
Yeah.
ever get back to my normal, but yeah, I'm giving this away,
It's
and a
good.
lot
Well,
of
this
people
is a big journey for you.
yeah, a
Big
lot of
journey.
people have said, "Why don't you monetize?" And I've had asks from a couple sponsors,
Yeah.
but I don't want to because I don't
Yeah.
honestly I don't trust, because what they do is they
Well,
cut
it
it
could wreck.
apart.
Yeah, it could wreck the
Commercials.
integrity of what you're trying to do,
So
right?
that's where you and I could probably spend some time in the future, maybe
Sure.
later in the year, about to get my once I blast off my platforms being refreshed, how to get the most eyeballs and listens
Happy
without
to.
giving my show away to somebody's gonna own
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
all right,
No, awesome. Thank you very much, Tom. Get that fan on and get cool.
I'm having a shower. All right, thanks, Sandy.
Thanks so
See ya.
much. Take
Oh,
care.
this sits on the feed. So if you're keen and you want to sit down with Kris, go back to the feed, and it's going to be
Okay.
there. This will be there
Awesome.
now for until I kick it off. So
Oh, that's
all
awesome.
right,
Thanks so much.
see you later.
Okay. See you.